Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Honorable Vice Dean for Academic Affairs, the Honorable Dr. Ismet MSc, Vice Dean for Student Affairs, the Honorable Professor Soni Mirizan, NAADD, the Chair of the Committee, the Honorable Visiting Professor from Utah State University and Brigham Young University, Professor Kathy Kaptrunder and Professor Laura Wheeler. I'm the test. And the Honorable of all the Head and Secretaries of Departments, Coordinator of Study Program, Lectures, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, good morning everybody. I'm Meli Ariska. It's such a great honor for me to be here as Master of Ceremony for this amazing occasion. And I would like to welcome you all to Stadium General Session for Science for Early Childhood Education in Palembang on July 27, 2023. Our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite the coordinator of the Stadium General to deliver the program report. Please welcome Dr. Aziza Hussein MVD. Dr. Aziza Hussein MVD, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everybody. Okay. Praise and gratitude we pray to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for all the favors and gifts that have been given to us. And also blessing and greetings addresses to our Lord and to the Prophet Muhammad, may be peace be upon him. For all the life teachings has he given, and so that we are safe in this world and the hereafter. The Honorable Dean of Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Dr. Hartono MA, the Honorable Vice Dean of Academic Affairs, Dr. Rita Indrawati MPD, the Honorable Vice for General Affairs and Finance, Nimas Aisyah MPD PSD, the Honorable Vice Dean and Student Affairs, Dr. Ismet MSc, the Honorable our visiting professor for this event from Prof. Kathy Kaptrunder, and Laura Wheeler. Welcome to Palembang and welcome to Sriwijaya University. The Honorable invited guests and all participants, I am proud to extend my warm welcome to all of you at this Stadium General, Science for Early Childhood Education. Early childhood education is a crucial foundation for creating and generating that is intelligent, creative, and competitive. When children from birth of the age of 6 years are all the age at the golden age of growth and development. In this age, children have a great sense of curiosity about their surroundings. Knowledge and skills and in science are becoming increasingly relevant in dealing with complex global challenges. Through a scientific approach in science, children can be encouraged to explore, ask questions, and think critically about the phenomena around them. Therefore, this event has a very good goal, which is to provide an understanding and awareness about the importance of science education in the early stage of child development. We sincerely express our heartfelt gratitude to Prof. Kati Cape Tandler, and Laura Wheeler for the incredible time, dedication, and extraordinary knowledge you share. Your presence has equipped this event with a deeper meaning and provided participants with valuable insights into the world of science for early childhood. Furthermore, I would like to thank to the participants who registered in this special general stadium from all over Indonesia who have participated in this event both virtually and on-site. I believe this event will inspire all of us to remain committed to being a valuable start in our collective efforts to create a better education for the children of the future. Finally, I would like to thank all the committee who have prepared this seminar. Hopefully, this event will run smoothly until the end. May this be a memorable and enriching experience for us. Thank you and enjoy the Stadium General. Good morning and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Aziza Hussein MPD. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are now ready to move to on the main agenda today. We are very privileged and exciting to listen to our speaker today. Would you please welcome to the stage the visiting professor from Utah State University, Professor Katie Cape Tandler, with our moderator today, Dr. Windy Dwi Andika MPD. Dr. Windy Dwi Andika MPD, time is yours, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you this morning? Fine. Okay, once again, how are you this morning? Fine. Okay. Welcome to Stadium General with topic Science for Early Childhood Education in Teacher Training and Education Faculty, Palembang, 27th of July 2023. Okay, before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Windy Dwi Andika. I'm going to be your moderator today. And here I have a partner. She is Najlatul Fatiha or Tia. She is an interpreter. We are partnering here. Okay. And we come from education department actually. And before that, I want to thank to the Honorable Rector of Sriwijaya University, Professor Dr. Anis Sagaf, the Honorable the Dean of Teacher Training and Education Faculty, Dr. Hartono M.A., the Honorable Vice Dean for Academic Affairs, Dr. Rita Indrawati MPD, the Honorable Vice of Dean for General Affairs and Finance for Nyimas Aisyah, PhD, and the Honorable Vice Dean of Students Affairs, Dr. Ismet MSI. So, and also all lecturer and my lovely students in here from undergraduate in education department. Actually, early childhood education and primary education in here. Okay. In a program, a visiting professor from Utah State University and Brigham Young University, USA, to teacher training and education faculty. Indeed, we will not miss this big opportunity to get a lot of experiences and new information about science for early childhood education, of course. So for that, in here, as our speaker, Professor Dr. Katie Cape Tandler. Is it right? Okay, that's right. Okay. Before we start, let me read your profile first. Professor Katie Cape Trondle is a professor from Utah State University, USA. She got her bachelor degree from University of Tennessee in Education Science in 1999, and she obtained a master's from the University of Tennessee Education Curriculum and Instruction in 1995, and she got her doctoral degree from the same university in 1983. Katie K. Trondle's leadership in the science education span almost 40 years and include 10 years of public school teaching in Tennessee, right? Before joining the faculty of Utah State University, and she served as a department head and professor at North Carolina State University for 4 years. Okay, and as a professor in early childhood science education at the Ohio State University for 13 years. Oh, wow. With wow, with more than 200 scholarly publication, research articles, book chapters, books, several textbooks, series with National Geographic. She has delivered more than 65 invited presentation and keynote speaker at national and international conference like China, Italy, New Zealand, of course, in Indonesia conferences. Okay. With an area expertise in science education, Katie Cape Trondle major research interests include early childhood and elementary science teaching and learning and the accessibility of science for learners. Grounded in a conceptual change theory, he works focuses on the cognition and the teaching and learning of science concept in interdiscipline contexts. Is that right? It's a great profile. Okay, now, Professor Katie, it's time to you to present your topic. The floor is yours.
Can you share Salamat pagi. I'm very delighted to be here with you. I'm honored, Dr. Wheeler and I both are very honored to be invited to come to your beautiful university and to work with you throughout this week. This is the 6th time that I have traveled to Indonesia to work with universities. The first 2 times that I came, I worked on Java. I worked on Java in Semarang at UNES University. And then the next 2 times that I came were here in Sumatra at your own university, Sriwijaya. And then right before I came here, I went to Kalimantan. So, and each time I have been in Bali and I have worked at a university there. So I've worked in 4 of the islands and I hope to visit more, but I'm especially glad to be here with you. Pak Hartono was my student at Ohio State University. So he came to work in Columbus, Ohio, and that's how I knew Pak Hartono. So we started working together in 2008, and I've been coming to Indonesia for the past 12 years. So it's been a wonderful and rich and beautiful experience to work with you and to work with Pak Hartono. So I'm very excited to be invited to talk to you about one of my 2 favorite topics. Okay, thank you. And do you mind? I do want to touch it. Thank you. We'll get it set up here. But one of my 2 favorite subjects is, okay, so hang on just one second. So I think, yes, but I think we need to download. Okay, never mind. We'll roll with it. Well, we might not roll with it. There, it's still up there on the screen, but we need it. So my two favorite topics are science education. So I taught biology and earth and space science. And for the past 25 years, I've worked with science in early childhood contexts. In Ohio, at Ohio State University, early childhood was age 3 through grade 3, through age 3 through age 8. So it's a little different in terms of how we define it. But I have worked with preschools throughout the U.S., especially in Ohio and in Virginia, where we had a research grant on math and science education. And then I've worked with Primrose schools, and that's across the U.S., and that's in over 300 preschools across the U.S. So can the tech people help us? Is it going to be okay? We cannot project it from here in Box, and they didn't download it. So do you think it's going to be okay just to present it from Box? Just scroll through it? Okay. It's okay. It's okay. We got it. That's what I tried to do when it did this. Didn't like what I did. So technical difficulties. So what I'm going to do with you today is what I will do with you today is to look at a model of instruction that is effective for helping children to engage with science content. And that is a social emotional learning model that involves the heart, the hands, and the head. So it's a 3H learning model, and I'll show you what that might look like in a curriculum. So I now have I am developing with a team of other researchers a STEAM, which means science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So it's a STEAM curriculum that is garden-based learning, and it is grades K through 12. So early childhood through high school till they're ready to go to college. So the other one is for Primrose, and that was a preschool curriculum, and it also was integrated, and it was integrated with arts across the curriculum. So it also included social studies, and it included health and wellness. So I have two research studies. I'm going to share with you what that learning model is. I'll share with you why we integrate arts, why we think that's a good idea based on the research, and then I will share two research studies. Do you need to translate? I'm sorry, I forgot we were translating. You're good so far? Okay. So this picture shows a couple of people that you know there, Pak Hartono and then also Pak Sofindi. I met with Pak Sofindi and the deans from across Indonesia. That's the bottom picture. We were meeting in Bali. And then the top two pictures are when I have visited your university previously. And here's the overview that I just told you. We'll look at what is art, what are the types of art, then what is arts integration, and then why it's important to integrate the arts, and then the example of the STEAM curriculum that I told you about with the heart, the hands, and the head. And then I have two research studies that I will share with you on the effectiveness of the curriculum and about why it's important for us to engage children in science at an early age. Okay, the first question is, what is art? So what is art? An art is any artifact. An artifact would be something that is 3 or 2-dimensional. So it's something that you create that you could touch or visualize. So you can observe it through your sense of touch, could even be smell, and then also touch and sight. The action, those are ones that are performance. So the performance would be things that you could hear and things that you could see. The art is also anything that can be experienced, interpreted, and appreciated. And I very much have appreciated the beautiful art and culture in Indonesia. Every time I come, I visit Ubud and Bali and visit the artist colony, and Dr. Lara and I visited during this trip. And then also we visit in terms of looking at the beautiful batik that you make at each island. And I'm wearing, this is a gift from Pak Hartono. And Dr. Lara has one. You want to show them yours? We went, Pak Hartono took us shopping yesterday to buy batik. So we appreciate the culture and the music and the dance, the beautiful dances at the beginning. So you have an incredibly rich culture with the arts. Integrating the arts into your instruction is important for effective learning. So there are basically 2 types of art. Those 2 types of art are visual, as we mentioned, things that you can see, like batik, like the masks, like the puppets. Now, those are visual in terms of, unless you are watching a performance of the puppet show, the baskets, the silver jewelry, and the glasswork. Those are visual when you are looking at those and it's not a performance. The performance for Indonesia and any place would be music, dance, the puppet shows, and I think that's it. Well, it could be plays and drama. So those are the basic types of art. Our curriculum that we are developing now for the garden-based learning includes visual and performing arts. The one I led the development on for Primrose Preschool involved visual and performing arts. So what does arts integration mean? Arts integration means demonstrating understanding through the arts. So it's applying what they learned into an art form. It's engaging in a creative process. Importantly, this is what it requires to be. Integrated. Is it needs to connect art to at least one other content area, like science, like mathematics, engineering, or it could be social studies. But integration means connecting art in a meaningful way to another subject area. And also, key on the last point is it needs to meet the objectives of both, the objectives or standards of both those content areas. Okay? Okay. So the benefits of art integration include, and also I will share, I've already shared these slides with your instructors, so they can share the slides with you. I'm going to put those in a PDF for you, so you don't have to worry about taking notes for everything. But increased learning gains for students. So this is content knowledge and understanding. Increase in academic vocabulary in terms of the use of vocabulary and the understanding of vocabulary. The positive social emotional benefits, and this one is really interesting. So it's an improved school or classroom climate, and that school or classroom climate shows up in the research as when we're looking at looking at the overall school climate, there were fewer disciplinary issues. So there were fewer classroom management and discipline issues within the school overall. In a study with middle schoolers in the United States, if there are behavioral issues, sometimes the students are removed from the classroom and put into a separate area. It's called suspension, in-school suspension, and they're not allowed to participate in class. There's out-of-school suspension where the children are removed and sent home and not allowed to participate in the school or class. So in the middle school study, where there was arts integration across the school, there were fewer incidents of in-school suspensions and out-of-school suspensions. So it was more positive interpersonal interactions. So there were fewer behavioral issues. Classroom management is a concern for all teachers, especially new teachers. When you're getting ready to teach, people worry about that. It takes you a while to figure out how to develop relationships. Integrating the arts helps to connect children and develop those relationships and reduces negative or undesirable behaviors. In a preschool study, there were lower incidents of undesirable behaviors like, and we're talking about preschool, biting, hitting, and pushing. So it decreased the number of negative behaviors and increased the number of positive interactions between students. So art integration has social emotional benefits, and that's with children interacting with children and children interacting with teachers and teachers interacting with children. And last but not least, it benefits teachers. Teachers can feel isolated in their classroom. When they're integrating, they should be working across classrooms. For example, my strength is in science education. Ibu Rita's specialization is in literacy. So we could collaborate on art integration with literacy and science. And then I'm not isolated. We're working together. So it increases teacher collaboration. It increases the use of more effective teaching strategies, and it increases the number of different strategies that teachers use effectively. So those are the benefits of integrating the arts into STEM in general and science specifically. Okay. Okay, this is our model for our curriculum. When you look at the model for the curriculum here, this is the same learning model. And coincidentally, when I worked with a doctoral student at Ohio State, her name is Hatice İnanan from Turkey, and she did an ethnographic study, a year-long study of a Reggio Emilia-inspired preschool. And she looked at how science was enacted implicitly and explicitly. And through her work, we came up with the hearts-on, the hands-on, and the heads-on. In science education, we talk a lot about using manipulatives, using hands-on, getting children involved in inquiry. So that's the hands-on. Hearts-on means engaging children emotionally, connecting it to them in their personal lives. So for the most effective learning, we need to connect the learning to children's personal lives, and we can do that through play. Play is critically important, not just for young children, but throughout our lives. Connecting in a meaningful, emotional way helps adults learn. So doing something playful to connect with the content. And that tends to be child-initiated. This would involve, and I'll show you a picture, of having a center. I'm going to teach about magnets, I have a center in my room, in my classroom, and I have magnets and toys that involve magnets. And children are playing with those magnetized objects. And they're exploring with them. I'm not teaching them directly, but I have set it up so they can explore with those magnets. And that's in a playful, self-initiated way. And that is purposeful play. And it's based on nurturing the children's curiosity. So these are things you've been talking about in your early childhood classes. I know. Curiosity, play, and then the social emotional. What the teacher is doing, your role during that first phase, is that you set up the environment to have materials so that children can play. You also are walking around observing the children and asking them questions. I wonder what would happen when you put those two magnets together. But you're not instructing them, you're asking them questions and encouraging them to engage with the materials. So that is child initiated with teacher support. So the teacher is planning and observing and asking questions only in that phase. Okay, on the hands-on, so we've got the hearts on with the play. Hands-on, they're answering an inquiry question. An inquiry question is a question that can be answered through their observations. So if the inquiry question is, what happens when you put two magnets together? You give children two magnets and ask them, what words will describe how the magnets are interacting with each other? And children say, when they come together, they're hugging, they're kissing, they're clicking, or when they're moving apart, they're pushing, they're chasing, they're sliding. So they use their own words to describe that, and they realize that all of those involve coming together, pulling together, or pushing apart. But they're telling you words to describe it. They're using magnets, making observations, using their language. This is where Ibu Rita and I can collaborate, but they're using their own language. I'm not imposing any vocabulary, no vocabulary at this point. So that's where they're doing solving problems. They're answering questions with observations and solving problems. So that's the hands-on. Play for the heart, explore for the hands, and then heads-on is teacher-directed, and this one is teacher-guided. Hands-on is teacher-guided. So you provide the materials, you provide the inquiry question, and you are observing and guiding them with productive questions. Productive questions, children can answer with their observation. So then after they've done the hands-on, if we only do hands-on, the children don't know what they are supposed to learn. So then it's just activity mania. So they've done an activity, they're excited, they've had fun, but they don't know what they are supposed to have learned. They know they played with magnets. So here's where we discuss. So we say, let's share our list of words. We do a class word list. You do that in early childhood. I put up on my Post-it note, my big Post-it note, or on a whiteboard or a chalkboard or a piece of paper, we make a list of class words on how the magnets interact. And then we identify the patterns. Which ones involve the magnets coming together? Kissing involves coming together. Hugging involves coming together. Clicking involves coming together. Swinging. So if you take one and swing it on the other one, they're stuck together. Stuck is a verb. When they're stuck together, that's coming together. So we look at the patterns, and then for the pushing away, it's push, it's chase, it's slide. So we look at those verbs. And then we scaffold the vocabulary. Scaffolding means we apply scientific terms to the children's own language. So we encourage them to use their own language during hands-on, and then during the discussion, during the heads-on, we are labeling the learning. So after they've done this, we say magnets interact. When you put two magnets together, they either pull together or they push apart. Two ways magnets interact: pull together or push apart. When they pull together, scientists call that an attraction. They attract or pull together. If they're pushing apart, scientists call that push apart a repel. The magnets are repelling. Pushes and pulls are forces. So that's a basic physics lesson for children as young as 3. So I've effectively done that with children as young as 3. So then they go back to play. So now you add the materials that they've used during the investigation to their play center, and they go back and they're applying their new language to the play context. So the one on the left we developed for Primrose Preschool. They are the same 3H model. It's 2 different ways to represent it. The one on the left is from the article up there in 2017. That's in young children, and I'll show you that article in just a minute. The one on the right is an article that, and I'll say Ibu Lara, Dr. Lara, and I worked with a team with our grant project, and we have an article that uses this. They're the same model, but the way to represent it. What is missing from this one is the continuous assessment, but assessment is going on throughout. So next slide. So this is an image of a child interacting with magnets. This is during the play phase of, that's an exploration center, that's a science center, and he is interacting with magnets. So what kinds of things do you see on his face? What does his face say to you? How's he feeling about that experience? Anyone? Excited. I heard excited. Enjoying. He's enjoying that. Does he look sad or happy? He looks happy. So, and he's discovering, he's experiencing. So this is the play part with the hearts on. You can tell he's excited and he's enjoying it. And let me ask you this, because I asked this I'm asking you to raise your hand if you have this experience. How many of you have played with a magnet? You have a magnet at your house that you've stuck on something, or you've used a magnet. You've played or used a magnet. Raise your hand if you've ever used a magnet. I have. Have you, Dr. Laura? So some of us have used magnets. So when I do that in the U.S., everyone has used a magnet. It's a shared experience. So using magnets, that's a way to connect to people's lives. And then, do you want to ask them the question?
Ya, berarti maksudnya begini, silahkan teman-teman di sini mau sharing tentang pengalaman ketika bermain magnet dengan bahasanya sendiri. Silahkan. Angkat tangannya sayang. Ya. Saying your name.
My name is Fatima Aurelia Putri.
Ya.
Boleh pakai bahasa Indonesia aja, Bu?
Boleh.
Jadi,
She want to speak in bahasa.
Yes.
jadi di rumah Aurel itu, karena mungkin Aurel itu,
Tunggu. At home, she play the magnet.
no.
Okay.
So I have I have cousins that still little. They love to play magnets. So they used to put magnets on fridge
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So they put it on and take it off, and I was really like it to do it as well.
Yes. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, and let me say this. I am deeply humbled and I am very, very, very grateful to you because I come to your country and I do not speak your language. And that makes my heart sad. If I could come and stay longer, I would love to learn your beautiful language. I would love to. But here's what I want to say to you. I am so grateful that you try to use English and that your English is excellent. You hesitated to use your English. Your English was excellent. So we are yes, let's do a round of applause. Yes. So we are both very impressed. Every session, we are very impressed that you will use your language. You've worked hard to learn another language, and you are brave to speak another language. I learned a joke in Turkey. I don't know how jokes translate, but how many languages do you speak, Ibu Rita? Ibu Rita speaks 3 languages. So we would call her trilingual. Trilingual. Do you speak 2 languages, Laura? 1.5. But if someone speaks 2 languages, they are bilingual. And here's the joke. Do you know what you call someone who speaks 1 language? And it's sad but true, American. So you would think it would be monolingual, but that is a limitation of our culture. So we are very limited. You are brave and you are smart, and we are very appreciative of you doing that. You've worked hard, and I recognize that, and I'm grateful. Okay, so anyone else want to share a magnet story? Children love magnets. Adults love magnets. So it's something that can connect to the heart. You can see it's connecting to his heart. Anyone else wish to share? And you can speak in English or your own language. Yes.
Others, share your experience. Ya, don't worry ya, jangan takut ya. Nanti akan dibantu sama Ibu Tia di sini. Silakan. Mungkin sewaktu kecil, yang
okay.
ingat gitu.
It's okay. But the point is, adults and children love to play with magnets, and we've had shared experiences. That is the hearts on. You can see the hearts on in that picture. Okay, next slide. So this is the article that I referred to. If we can move is it possible to move because the image at the bottom is blocking it? I don't know if there's any way to move it.
Kak, itu agak tertutup nih. Bagian ininya, QR code-nya tolong di minimize. Okay.
Now you can use the QR code and download the article for free. Ibu Lara put that up for you, and we're sharing it as a PDF. That will take you to that article in Young Children that describes hearts on, hands on, and minds on, heads on. So I'll give you a minute to download that. And feel free to come up if you need to come closer to do that. And you don't have to download it, but it's a free article you're welcome to do.
Silakan ke depan. Kalau nggak bisa download dari situ, boleh ke depan. Bagi yang sulit untuk scan QR code-nya, silahkan maju ke depan. Belum.
Okay, anyone else need to download this one? I also will share, I'll share with your professors other articles that we have done for early childhood that use that 3H model. I can share those with you, and you can share with the students. That way they'll have free articles for things they can do in their classroom. Sama-sama. Yeah, well, thank you. This is from the top, this is published by the top organization for early childhood.
Wow.
It is the National, NAEYC, the National
National
Association
Association
of
of
Education for Young
Young
Children. NAEYC or NACE. NACE. And if you also notice, it's published in an issue that focused on social and emotional development in early childhood. That's the importance of using that 3H model. It's more effective learning, and it helps with classroom management and establishing relationships. It also helps in terms of, and this has been really hard with COVID, children and adults both have a lot of anxiety after COVID, and they have a lot of depression. So depression and anxiety in young children, when you can engage them socially and emotionally, it helps them to overcome anxiety and depression. So we're not just working with a child on their cognitive development, we're working with them also on social, emotional. So it's holistic look at children. Okay, next. And this one is the article. This one is for middle school children, but it also describes the 3H model. This is an article that Ibu Lara and I worked on. Our names are up there with our other team members. And isn't it just Murphy's Law that every time it's up there, it's hidden by? So if we can move that banner at the bottom just a minute, or can we scroll it? Move.
Tolong bagian ICT Kak, ini barcode-nya agak tertutup. Yang bagian bawah, barcode-nya agak tertutup. Yeah.
Are we sharing from here? Well, here I can do that. I don't know. Can you click on that and move it up? Now, can they move the bottom? There we go. Yes. You all are awesome.
Thank you.
We need to have a round of applause for our technology people also. Thank you to our technology people. So there's the QR code. You're welcome to come up and take that article too, or take it from where you're sitting.
Yeah.
But those are in a PDF form that we can share to you free. So your library doesn't have to have a subscription.
Sudah dapat?
Thank you for doing
Sudah
that.
dapat artikelnya? Sudah.
A couple
got the
more
article.
people are getting it. Yeah, I think everyone, it looks like everyone has it now. Anyone still need to download it? Hey, Tara Makasi. And we'll go on to the next one. So let me pause there before we go into the research. So this image to me represents arts integration with STEM. So to me that represents art and STEM for STEAM. So right now we can take questions. We're pausing to take questions about art integration, on what is it and why it's important, and about the 3H learning model, on what is it and anything you want to know about the learning model. A learning model is a model of how people effectively learn, and you use that model in your instruction, on how you design your instruction. Those lessons that we shared follow a 3H model. And it talks, the one from young children describes the magnet lesson that I was talking to you about. So questions? You want to ask about, no, do you want to ask about questions? Do they
Okay.
have questions about art integration, or the 3H model?
Uh, ada yang ingin bertanya di sini bagaimana integrasi dari model-model yang digunakan ya
Dengan 3H model tadi yang
sudah
hands on,
dikenalkan.
hands on, head
Betul.
on. Ada pertanyaan?
Ada pertanyaan sampai sini tentang 3 model yang diperkenalkan. Hands on, and hands on. Not yet, I think.
Okay.
Later, maybe.
Maybe I explained it well, but if you have questions later, I want you to feel free to ask. Also, you can email me about questions after you read those articles. Okay, next. So now I'm going to share. So what I've shared with you so far are practitioner articles, meaning they were written for classroom teachers. The first one was written for early childhood. It was written for you and people like you. The second one was written for middle school teachers, like the teacher we're working with in Utah. We have a group of middle school teachers, middle grades. Okay, so our first question, this is from research. So you remember I showed you the learning model from Primrose Preschools. That's 300 preschools across the United States. We gathered data from those children before we implemented the STEAM curriculum that we developed. And actually, it would be a STEAMS because they included social studies and they included physical activity and wellness. But looking at, they did the STEAM, and we were looking at, is it effective? Because we wanted to know, does it work? So we surveyed the children before instruction, and then we surveyed the children after instruction. So at the beginning of the school year and at the end of the school year. And we looked at, does the effect, if there's any effect, I mean, we could find out it's not effective. It doesn't work, and we need to change it. So when we were looking at the effect, did it depend on the age of the child, the sex or gender of the child, or motivation? Motivation meaning they want to do science. They're interested in science. They're motivated to do things related to science. And the next one. So we had 158 preschool children, and I think they were in 3 of the 300. They were randomly selected preschools. These are 158 preschool children, 86 of whom their parents identified as boys, and 72, the parents identified them as girls. And there were 110 of them that were older. We call those the older children, and they were 4 years. And then we had 48 who were younger, and they were 3 years. So we had older children and younger children. Okay, next slide. This is really interesting to me. We were giving a test, an assessment of what children knew about science and about scientific inquiry. And the children were as young as 3 years old. So we had an iPad and a touch screen, and our doctoral student read the question to the children, and the children touched the screen for the answers. And we assessed them twice, the beginning of the school year and the end of the school year. And it assessed it was computer-based, it was looking at science knowledge, the scientific inquiry process skills. He's got an item, and they're strategically, he's got an algorithm in there where it strategically picks the questions, but there's a bank of 500 items, and each child received 35 to 40 questions in that assessment. The reliability, meaning is it measuring what we're saying it's measuring, was 0.87, which is good. It is a reliable instrument, and they have a very large data set. It was reliable for our group, but they've developed that over many years with a very large database. And that's from Daryl Greenfield, and he is at the University of Miami in Florida. Okay, next. So first we looked at the relationship between the lens scores. So we were looking at sex, age, and then interest in learning science. The ILS is interest in learning science, and that's a measure for motivation. And the tests that we ran were independent sample t-tests, pre and post, and then we also looked at Pearson correlation coefficients. So you don't have to understand all of that. I will summarize what this tells us. I want to give you the information to let you know we did a thorough and rigorous research study. And then we looked at changes in the lens scores pre to post. And then we did a dependent sample t-test. And then we did generalized linear mixed modeling to see if those variables were related. Remember, we're looking at age, sex, and interest in learning science. Those were our variables. And the other variable is the test score. So the test score, we're looking at, do those three variables impact test score? Okay. And the second instrument is the interest in learning science, and these are from folks, Helen Patrick and colleagues out of Purdue University in the United States in Indiana. And this one is a 7-item rating scale. It is rating teachers' perceptions of students. And this is a measure of our children interested in science. So that has an internal consistency of 0.9, which is good. Okay, so the instruments we're using are measuring what we say they're measuring. So they are good, reliable instruments. So we looked at the relationship between the interest of learning science scores related to sex and age. So do sex and age impact interest in learning science? And then we did a two-way ANOVA. So our pre-results. So when you look at the lens results, so here's where it's important for you. So this part you will understand without having to understand the research. The first one here, right here with boys versus girls, there is no asterisk there. So there was no significant difference in gender. Girls were as interested in learning science as the boys. So there was equal interest. Some of the research literature suggests that boys are more interested in science. Our data indicated the girls were as interested in science as the boys. No difference between gender. There was a significant difference between older and younger children, and there was more interest in the older children. So the asterisk means that is statistically significant. So there was a significant difference between older children and younger children favoring the older children. So the interest in learning, oh wait, I said the wrong, I'm sorry. Okay, down at the bottom, I was telling you at the bottom, that's the interest in learning science. This one here, girls and boys were equally interested in science. Older children were more interested in science than the younger ones. Okay, for content knowledge, starting out with the pre-results, there was no difference. So the boys and the girls performed equally on science content knowledge. So a lot of the research indicates that boys score higher, and we're going to look at some of our results on what we find. And then the older students outperform the younger students, which we would expect. So no difference in interest between boys and girls, and no difference in content knowledge starting out. So the post results are really interesting based on this. So next. So the post results. So when we looked at the comparing the pre-test to the post-test, what this first number here, comparing pre to post, there was a significant difference, which means that the scores changed from before instruction till after instruction. So the curriculum appeared to be effective, and there was a significant difference. Okay, when we looked at the general linear mixed modeling, there was a significant difference over time. There was a significant difference with age, and there was a significant difference with interest in learning science, and there was a significant difference in sex related to time. Okay, so we're going to look at what does that mean. What that means is, on the bottom one, looking at sex over time, what we found is that the girls outperformed the boys on the post-test. So the significance of these results, there are very few science curriculum research studies for preschool children. There are very few research studies on science curricula in preschool. Based on our results, the curriculum was more effective than in other studies. Some of the studies, like a study out of the University of Virginia, found no difference with their curriculum. There was no significant change after they implemented the curriculum. Ours was had greater gains and a larger effect size. And the generalized mixed modeling with sex over time, that the girls outperformed the boys. So next. So what this showed us based on our results is that the girls, if you look at the girls are the red line, the boys are the blue line. The two dots are close together on the left, that's the pre-test. And that line at the second point, that's the post-test. On the left, the two dots on the left, right here, those are at the beginning of the school year. Implement the curriculum, and the last one is at the end of the school year. And if you look, the dots on the left are close together. There's no significant difference between boys and girls in what they know about science. At the end of the school year, the girls outperformed the boys, and the difference was significant. In most studies with curriculum, the boys tend to outperform the girls. So this was a novel finding, which was very exciting. What it suggests is likely that girls benefit from STEAM more than boys. There is that possibility. So at the very least, all the children benefited, and the girls seem to benefit more. Okay? So now this is the question. Here's the question. The question is, and let me ask if you have any questions about the first study. So STEAM was effective, and it was more effective for girls than boys.
Ada pertanyaan tentang kenapa STEM itu lebih menguntungkan atau tertarik perempuan daripada laki-laki. Keinginan belajar sains ya. Terus silakan teman-teman. Ada pertanyaan mengenai topik tersebut?
Ada yang mau ditanyakan untuk ada? Silakan.
Ya,
I have a couple of questions at this table. Yes.
Okay, thank you for first of all, I'm Safanis Al Iman from the undergraduate program of the Department of Teacher for Primary School. So sorry for my English. if there
Oh.
is a mistake in.
No, your English is excellent. No apology. I'm the one who needs to apologize. I don't speak your language. No apology.
So, like you said before, Professor, that girls more likely to have more impact on STEM curriculum. So, my question is why? The reason,
Ah.
is there any reason of why the girls more likely uh, to have a benefit from the STEM curriculum?
Okay, that's a great question. The one thing that was unique about our curriculum compared to others, ours integrated the arts. So perhaps, now this is speculation, we don't have data on this, but the speculation is that by integrating the arts, it was more interesting and could connect with girls more with the heart, so they learned more in terms of the science content. So it could be that it's more interesting, so they were more engaged with it, and they learned more.
So the girls more likely to be the STEM curriculum because the girls is into with the STEM curriculum like that.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's creative. It's more creative. Well, I mean, it's the boys and the girls both equally benefited, but the big question is, I mean, they didn't equally benefit. They both benefited. The question is, why did the girls benefit more? The only thing we know is that our curriculum integrated the arts and the other curricula did not. Also, another important thing is ours was the first study that ever found that a preschool science curriculum made a difference. No one had ever reported that others had been developed, but they were not effective. So ours was effective. That's a big finding, and it was more effective for girls. So it could be that girls found that more interesting, and they found the creativity to be more engaging with their hearts. That's a possibility.
Thank you for your
Thank you, and thank you for your excellent English and making the effort to speak. Thank you. Did anyone else have a question?
Ada pertanyaan lagi? Pakai bahasa Indonesia juga nggak apa-apa. Oke. Jangan takut. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I want to asking you about sometimes the older student not really interested to do some activities in STEM rather than the younger students. How to make them more enthusiastic? Is there any other example for the student activity?
Oh, that's a great question. The way to get children engaged in science, I was talking to a friend in Utah this morning. Well, maybe, I don't know. I think this morning, it doesn't matter. But we were talking about grandchildren. I have 2 grandchildren. How many of you have watched children on the playground find insects? They're outside and they're finding insects. They're finding flowers. They're very curious. They're very curious. They're very engaged with nature. So children, from the time they are born, are exploring the world to try to figure it out. So they are naturally curious. And all we have to do, here's what our job is as early childhood people, all we need to do is nurture that curiosity. So keep allowing them to explore. So to keep it inquiry, to have hands-on materials, to have opportunities for children to ask and answer questions. It's as easy, here's an example, having ramps in the block area. You have a board that they can put up on blocks and roll cars down the ramps. And then changing the angle of the ramp, a low ramp close to if this is the,
The unit.
I'll do it here. So if this is the ground and this is my ramp, that's a low ramp. So what happens when I roll the cars down the low ramp? How far does the car go? And then we can put more blocks under that end and make it a steeper ramp. And what happens when I roll it down the steeper ramp? How far does it go? And how does that compare to the low ramp? And then is there a point when the ramp's the angle is too great and the car won't roll down it crashes? So those are investigations. And what happens when? So providing those opportunities in the block area, it's being strategic with materials. They need to have hands-on materials. And we need to go in with a disposition. Our job is to be guardians of their wonder, guardians of their caretakers of their curiosity. So if you can look at your job that way, then you keep nurturing it just like on the playground. I do have many examples. I have an article on ramps and cars and balls. I will share that with your professor. I have one on, I have one on shadow play. I have one on, I don't know. Which one? I do have one on moon phases, but it's not for early childhood. The one that I shared with you with young children has examples. It has a magnet example. So a magnet example, a ramp example. Oh, weather, observing weather. Weather here is the same. It's either raining or it's not. But where we come from, we get snow. We get snow piled up to here. So making weather observations and making wind observations, because out at the coast, you do have wind. Sometimes you do have wind. Sometimes you have rain. So I have one on weather, ramps, and the magnet one I already shared with you. I will share with them. So the thing we need to do, be a guardian of wonder, be a caretaker of their curiosity, and nurture that curiosity. What we do in the United States and what we eventually do across the globe for science education is very tragically and sadly, we institutionalize the wonder out of children. So by using only textbooks and using lectures and using only worksheets, those are not engaging. You're not engaging their heart. So once you do that, they become uninterested. So keep engaging them hands-on. Using the 3H model, that's the answer. Terima kasih.
Thank you, sama-sama, Prof.
Sama-sama. Thank you. Great questions. You all are awesome.
Oke, ada lagi pertanyaan? Is there any more question? No? I think that's enough.
Okay, so far, let me recap what we've done. We talked about arts integration. What is it? What is art? What is arts integration and why arts integration is important? That was at the beginning of the slides. Then we talked about, can it be effective? We saw that it's very effective, more effective than other curricula, integrating the arts, and it seems to be more effective for girls than boys. So that's what we've talked about so far. So now, this is in preschool. We looked at the beginning of preschool and at the end of preschool for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. So of one school year. So the next question is, does it make a difference in the long run? And this is really a question for us as early childhood teachers. Does it matter that if children go to preschool or not? Does it matter what kind of instruction they have in preschool? So the question is, does the pre-K curriculum predict long-term science achievement? So we know it makes a difference in the short term for one academic year. We're going to look at, does it matter at the end of 4th grade? So we're talking about 5 years later. Okay, so next slide. So what happens in preschool does matter. So we were looking at TIMSS data. When we did this study, the most recent TIMSS study was in 2015. And we looked at 4th grade science scores. And there were 43 countries that participated globally, including the United States and Indonesia. And the really cool thing about the TIMS data is it is about 4,000 students from each country, and it is a nationally representative sample. So what that means is demographically, in terms of socioeconomic status, in terms of gender, in terms of age, that it is representative of all the fourth graders at that time in the nation. They weight the data, so it's weighted data, so the sample they have is a nationally representative sample. Then we looked at the state or national curriculum. Almost everyone else in the world has a national curriculum. We looked at the preschool curricula from 2010, 5 years later, when those children were in, we went backwards 5 years. So these are fourth grade scores. We went backwards 5 years, 5 years prior to 2010, and to see what those children did in preschool. So we looked at the standards for those countries for preschool. And then we assessed, had a rubric, and we scored the rigor of the curricula, the science curriculum. Okay? And for the United States, we don't have a national curriculum. So they selected one state, and in 2015, it was Florida. And Florida, we looked at the curriculum from 2010 in Florida. So we've got the science scores in 2015, 43 countries, about 172,000 students. That's about 4,000 from each country. And then we're looking at the curricula 5 years prior to when they were in the fourth grade. And we looked at science curriculum. Next slide. And here's what we found. We found that pre-K science, the quality of pre-K science, is a predictor of fourth grade science scores, and there was a high effect size. So it was statistically significant, and there was a high effect size. And a lot of times in educational research, we have a moderate or low effect size, but the effect size for predicting fourth grade performance was high based on what happened in preschool. So the answer is it matters what you do, at least for science, in the preschool classroom. And there was 1 point higher preschool curricular scores, translated into 10 points higher on the science score. So if it was 3 points higher, it was a total of 30 points higher on that fourth grade score. So it makes a difference, and it is a high effect. So, and the last slide is Tara Makasi. I appreciate, thank you. I appreciate your time, and now we'll take questions from the
Yes.
group on anything I presented.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Have a seat. Okay, for online participants, you can, if you want to ask a question, you can ask your question by raising your hand directly. But for online participant, if you have a question, you can write your question in chat box, and I'm going to read it for you. Okay, in here. Okay, please. Tell me your name and ask your question.
Okay, my name is Aurel. So, from what I understand, science will be better if we taught them with the things that are closest to children. And as we know, children usually focus on change rather than steady state situation. So my question is there any way for us to make them stay focused, or we just have to follow their way of thinking? So if they from the A to B, so we follow them to take the B things, or we just have to make them follow our direction. Maybe that's it. That will be really nice if you gave us the example for that situation. Thank you.
Okay, that's an excellent question. Thank you for the question. So the question is about, and this is a big debate. So the Reggio Emilia approach is focused on the child's interest. So focusing on the child's interest is important. We have standards to teach, and we usually do not have an emergent curriculum. You can do an emergent curriculum, meaning you follow the child's interest, the second option you gave. However, we need to make sure that we are including science-rich opportunities. So one way that we can guide the children's curiosity is like that center. If I want to teach about magnets, and you're right, it's about, they're more focused on change. What happens when you put two magnets together? You're observing the change. So putting the materials in a place center, you can control what kinds of things are in the classroom material-wise on what kinds of things you might teach. For example, if you want to teach about bubbles and looking at shapes of bubbles, and looking at predicting when bubbles are going to pop. Then you're blowing bubbles out on the playground, and they can watch and observe the bubbles. And you can ask the question of, what shape do you see? Is it square, like a block? Is it a cube, like a block? Or is it round, a sphere, like a ball? And using different shaped wands. If it's shaped like a square wand, what shape is the bubble? So you can ask them questions to get them to engage. Also, you can blow bubbles on the surface of a table and have them observe, and they observe enough to where they can predict when the bubble is going to pop. Watch for changes in the bubble. And then what happens right before the bubble is ready to pop? So you can introduce things that are of interest to children. So you have to know the children and what might be of interest to them. You do need to connect with their heart. It doesn't have to be an open emergent curriculum. It's what you introduce material-wise into the classroom. But it does need to be hearts on, hands on, and heads on. But you control what materials you put in the classroom. You can control what questions you ask. And then they're naturally engaged in it. So nobody made the little boy play with magnets. He was excited to play with magnets. So he was interested in those magnets. Does that help? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And then the other one. Okay. Please, miss, tell him your name.
I love your questions.
Okay, let me introduce myself first. My name is Husnul Khotimah. My question is, in Palembang, there are a lot of preschool. Then it called by daycare.
Yes.
My question is, there any requirement for the children to have preschool in daycare, such as the age or the student's residence? Please, your suggestion.
Yes, we don't have required preschool. In the United States, we have Head Start that is federally funded to help children who are from impoverished environments or have special needs. Not all children go to preschool. There is interest in providing funding so that all children can have an opportunity. So children who have a preschool experience are going to do better in school overall and for the long haul. It does have an impact, and not all children have the same opportunities. So a goal, policy-wise, is to provide free and excellent preschool, and that is child care with preschool for all children, so that it's leveling the playing field so that all children can have the same opportunities. That's an ideal and a goal for early childhood, to have free or at least reasonably priced preschool for all children that is of high quality preschool. And I worked with daycare workers and child care providers and preschool teachers in the state of Ohio. So you make an important point. So child care should involve quality preschool experiences. They should be together.
Okay, you got it.
Okay, thank you the answer.
Sama-sama.
Okay, thank you, Miss.
Terima kasih. great
What about in the we can read in the chat box maybe? Question in the chat box. No question, I think.
Any questions from Zoom? We have another question here while we're looking for Zoom.
Nothing. Nothing. No.
Okay.
No chat. But anyone here?
have one
Oh,
more
okay.
here. Yes.
Please.
So thank you for me to ask again. So first of all, that like Professor said before, the role of nature in early childhood is give children first-hand contact with the natural world. Nature over children freedom to explore and then use their sense and be physically physically active with the nature. And then in my undergraduate program of the Department of Teacher for Primary School, it would be a teacher to make the students it's about to make a student thinking in a higher level. So
level
my
thinking.
question is, by using the nature and introducing the science on the implement of the STEM curriculum, what can teachers do to improve higher order thinking skill in early childhood?
That's a really excellent question. So thank you. They're all excellent questions. And your English, like I said, is excellent. So thank you. This is a great question. So the thing I think is most important, I've told you what I think is most important, is number one, like you said, provide opportunities for children to engage with nature. Be a guardian of wonder and a caretaker of curiosity. So that's one really important thing. A second really important thing is engaging the heart, the hands, and the head. And the third thing, I think the most important strategy you can have in your teaching toolbox is how to ask productive questions. So it's not just asking questions. If the answer is yes or no, or if you're looking for one right answer, that is a closed question. A productive question causes children to make observations and to look for patterns, so that they tend to be attention focusing, meaning, what do you notice about? See, that doesn't have a right or wrong answer, and the answer is not yes or no. So what do you notice about this insect? Okay, so that's attention focusing. I also have an article on this I can share on how to ask good questions. The second type is counting and comparing. So if you have an insect, and that children love insects, then how many legs do you count on the insect? How many are on each side of the body? And then what do you notice about where the legs are located? Now, how many and which ones are bigger, which ones are smaller? Those tend to be closed, but it's focusing on an observation, okay? And then another one is an action. Action is what happens when? What happens when you move the mealworms, a larva of an insect, a larva of a beetle, on top of the grains? What do the mealworms do? What happens when you move them up on top of the grains into the light? What do you notice happening? Okay, and another one of the action is what happens when you put two magnets together? And then how can you describe that? Those are productive questions because they call on the child to do something, to make observations, and that makes higher order. And then here's the highest order is, can you find a way to make the ice cube melt faster? Can you find a way to make the ice cube melt slower? So those are problem solving. So that's a short answer to a big question. But the bottom line answer is, it's the questions you ask, the materials you provide for hands-on, and the questions you ask. And if you remind me, I will give you the article on productive questions. So I need to share with you about shadows, about weather, an article about movement, ramps and cars, and then the last one is about questions. I'll share that with you. I've got the PDFs. But great question.
Thank you for your answer. Your great answer.
Sama-sama.
Thank you, Miss. Okay. In the chat box, let me read for you. Oh, which one? In urban area you ask how the teacher manage science topics. Do they use general science topics or topics that related with their surrounding environment?
Oh, that's a great question. So the question really is about how do you, I think what they're asking, because it's talking about urban areas. And urban areas would be around cities. So the question is, how can you find nature in the city? And Palembang is a city. You have a lot of beautiful green spaces. So playgrounds are a good place. Playgrounds are a great place for science experiences. And it doesn't have to be out in nature. It's about being with materials. It can be the block area in the classroom. It can be with ramps and cars in the classroom. It can be with a water table or a pan of water, and children are doing investigations to see which objects float and sink. They make predictions. Which ones do you think will float? Which ones do you think will sink? And then they test out their ideas. The magnets are done in the classroom. Magnets are part of nature, so they don't have to be outside. However, we did a camp right on our campus. So right on our campus, we had children observing insects and observing plants and collecting insects and collecting other arthropods like roly-poly bugs, like isopods. So children find nature. And the playground, a ramp is a slide if you have slides. Swing is a pendulum. You know, so it's using your natural environment, not necessarily outside, but you can do nature. There is nature in a city. And you can go outside about sounds. You can do sounds and weather outside in a city. But it's a great question and a great consideration. Do you have anything else, Laura, on cities?
Maybe.
Okay, and the other one? If you can
bisa
scroll up.
Scroll di scroll ke atas pihak ICT, boleh minta tolong? Wait a minute.
I see needs and economic challenges.
Okay, what measures and strategies do you believe are crucial for ensuring and sustainability of early childhood education service in the face of changing societal needs and economic challenges? From
Yes.
Arya Sari.
Yeah. And that's a great question. And this is a policy issue. So we are never going to address educational issues until we invest in the education of all children and starting from a young age. So we need to provide opportunities for children to experience literature, to experience books, to increase spoken language. So, and all parents want their children to succeed. All parents want their children to have good educational opportunities. But if someone is working from before the sun comes up to after the sun goes down, they're not able to be reading and talking with their children. Also, not all parents know about the importance of talking. The best predictor of achievement for children is a parent's level of education. So the higher the education of the parent, the more vocabulary in conversations that the parent has with the child. And that naturally happens. So if all children don't have that experience, we need to be investing to provide preschool for all children. That is a major issue, and that requires policy changes. So that means talking to legislators, and that means commitments from the government. UNESCO and the World Bank believe in investing in preschool education and early childhood education. It is critically important. We have to get politicians to pay attention to it and to invest in it. But a great question.
Okay.
Oh, and one of the other really important things is what you are doing here. Early childhood teachers need to be educated. At times they have been not educated, meaning that people thought anyone could teach preschool. And anyone could do daycare. Anyone can do it, but not everyone can do it effectively. So high quality teacher professional development, including teacher training and teacher education, is really important. So I applaud you for being here and your professors for working with you. So you're doing the right things in terms of education. So education and professional development for teachers, and investing in early childhood opportunities for all children. It should be free and high quality for all children. That is the ideal.
Okay. Anyone who wants to ask with Professor Laura in here?
Another
Okay.
question? Yes.
Yes. Yes, please.
So, actually, I've already read some of your research article and journal.
Ah, thank you.
So,
Terima kasih.
sama-sama. So, there's that said, poor science instruction in early childhood contributes to negative student attitudes and performance.
Yes.
I'm not really sure which one I read, but can
Okay.
you explain more about this?
Yes.
This
Yes.
sentence?
So when I first went to Ohio State University, in terms of teacher training, the pre-service teachers that I worked with had 3 credit hours of science training and 3 credit hours of mathematics training. They had 18 credit hours for literacy. So they receive a lot more training in literacy than they do for math or science. And that's true across the board nationally in the United States. So what that means for teachers, excuse me. What that means for teachers is they are more comfortable with literacy than they are for science or mathematics. So when teachers don't feel confident, and Laura has done some research on efficacy, when teachers don't feel confident in their ability to teach science, then they are going to be less likely to do it and less likely to do it well. So the point is, and here's what I encourage you to do. Be a natural learner with your kids. Stimulate your own curiosity. Support the children's curiosity. Be a learner with the children. You don't have to know the answers. You have to be willing to explore. So to engage with the exploration with the children. But that's the key, is that when you're talking about teachers being comfortable, so if they have a negative attitude about science, it does negatively impact children. So that those two things are related. The literature is clear on that. So working with your professors here, reading articles, looking at effective ways to teach science for children, giving children the opportunity to be curious. So it's being playful, being curious, and letting them explore, and you're exploring with them as a co-learner. I don't know all the answers. I have a PhD in science education. I've been teaching for 40 years. I've been teaching longer than you've been alive. So I don't know all the answers. Nobody knows all the answers. So it's being willing to explore and figure out yourself. Yes.
Thank you for.
One other
great-
thing that is really important for Ibu Rita and I, another connection, is informational text. We tend to use storybooks and fiction books. So they're pretty and they're beautiful and they're fun, and I love them. However, children love nonfiction text and informational text. Most informational text is about science and social studies. Children love informational text. More than 90% of books that are in a classroom are fiction. Less than 10% are the books that children love. They like fiction also. Boys especially love nonfiction text. Boys especially love nonfiction text. Boys are more reluctant readers, and they perform lower on reading assessments. That's a research-based finding. One problem is that the questions on the reading test are nonfiction text. So for children to do well on the assessments, they need to have exposure to that type of text. So not only do they like it, it helps them with reading scores. So informational text is important. It's important to connect with the hands-on experiences you're giving them. So I have books about magnets, informational text about magnets. So not just pretend stories. And when you use pretend stories, then you say, what in the story is real, what could really happen, and what's pretend. That's really important for science-related concepts. What's real and what's pretend? And children really engage in that. So that's another way that you can help. And the reason I say that, teachers have more training for literacy and they're more comfortable. So that's one way to make that connection with science and literacy. Any other
Anyone?
questions?
Okay.
Oh, we have another question.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity. My name is Lily Okchairin, and I want to ask questions. What is your suggestions to the early childhood education teachers? The first things that they should do implementing STEAM strategy with the simple activity for
Excuse me,
the.
I'm having trouble hearing.
Pelan-pelan.
Okay,
Slowly.
go ahead. No,
Slowly.
go ahead.
What is your suggestions for the early childhood educations? The first thing that they should do to the implementing STEAM strategy with the simple activity for the students. It is good for the theory first, or we can immediately practice with the students.
What's something you can do early when you come to class? You can always be doing observations and looking at and asking those questions. Asking the questions when children are out exploring with nature, the ones that I mentioned, the productive questions, that's something that should be happening at the very beginning and throughout the day and throughout the school year, and that doesn't take any special materials. So it's getting in the disposition of asking them to make observations and record observations. Have them draw, that's recording an observation. Scientists use science notebooks. My geology buddy, Larry Krissick, Dr. Larry Krissick, I hope will come with me next year to visit Palembang. He uses, all scientists who do field science use a science notebook to draw and record their observations. So having children draw what they're observing and look for patterns are easy things to do and very effective. So start at the beginning, asking them questions, getting them to make observations, asking questions to guide their observations, getting them to record their observations with drawings, and then looking for patterns. So those are the key. And
Itu jadi-
problem solving.
Okay.
Work on problem solving together. Yes, great
got it?
questions.
You got it? Oke ya.
Thanks
Dimulai
for-
dari pertanyaan, kemudian mulai pertanyaan setelah ada pertanyaan, lalu lanjut dengan observasi, kemudian mereka diajak untuk mengeksplorasi, kemudian drawing, ya, mereka gambar, lalu mereka bisa tunjukkan ke orang tuanya dengan bahasanya mereka sendiri menceritakan hasilnya. Oke. Anyone?
Any other questions? You all are awesome. Those are really, really great, thoughtful questions.
Okay.
And I really appreciate you being attentive. This is not the best way to teach. I would love to come work with you and do hands-on experiences with you, but we are here for a short time. So not only am I grateful for your English, I am grateful that you have sat for 2 hours, which is hard. You have been attentive. You have been very polite and engaged,
Yes.
and you've asked wonderful questions. So I want you to give a round of applause for yourself.
Yes, tepuk
You're
tangan untuk kita
awesome.
semua di sini. Thank you, Professor.
So thank you very much, Kathy, because of a very interesting topic. So the students under early childhood education really understand what you delivered. Yeah, therefore there are so many questions. So I really appreciate that your 3H model. I think it is similar to me when I teach literature to my English students, how we try to develop the students' cognitive, something with the head, something with the heart, the affective, and something with the psychomotor. It is hand-on.
Yeah.
I think other study programs also can do similar what you have done. So it is very great, I think, to be delivered by you. Thank you.
Terima kasih, Ibu Rita. And what Ibu Rita said fits with what we're doing with I talk about science because I'm passionate about science and integrating art into science. Oh, and by the way, I have some cool pictures. There wasn't enough time. I have cool pictures from the preschool. So the way the children applied what they learned about magnets, they had on blocks and a tray. They put paper on top of the tray with paint and these steel balls, like marbles, but made out of steel. And then they had a magnet underneath the tray between the two blocks, and they moved it around to make magnet paintings. And then they used their words about attract, is the magnet attracting to the steel ball, or is it repelling? And they made magnet paintings after they learned about magnets. So they're applying some of what they learn in a creative way, and they enjoyed doing that, so it was connecting to the heart. So what I care about most is science in early childhood. But I still care about literacy, but that's not my area of specialization. In our grant project, we have science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and the arts. All of those use the 3H. So what Ibu Rita is saying is that the 3H model applies to all and is effective. So yes, it applies to literacy. And you ask children questions about text all the time and for higher order thinking. Yes. Yes. So it does apply. So I've talked to you about science, but it can apply across. Yes. And if you notice when I was giving you the ramp example, I asked about how far did it roll. We could measure for children, but we can also just do comparisons, put a piece of tape on the floor, or a child goes and stands there, and then see which one did the car roll further with a low ramp or a higher ramp. So that's mathematics, comparing. So that's comparative measurement. Or they could either measure with a meter stick, or they could do non-customary. Is that what they're called? Measurements. How many steps? Non-customary. They can measure with how many steps and which one was more steps long. So there are lots of ways to connect math too. Anything else?
Anything? Okay.
Yeah.
In the back, over there maybe child care, and what is the requirement for parents send their children to the child care and preschool. Yeah, what differences requirement? Yeah, requirement. And what about at home? Because same day only 2 hours childcare or in preschool, but at home long day.
Yes. So the question is about the requirement in the U.S. for child care and daycare. Child care and preschool. So there is no requirement in the U.S. for children to go, and that's primarily because we are not committing the funds. We're not committing the funds to early childhood. So the goal is to get policymakers to invest in early childhood so that all children can attend. Like children are required in the U.S. to go to kindergarten. So K through 12 is compulsory. Is kindergarten compulsory in all states? Kindergarten is not compulsory. 1 through 12 is, but in some states, kindergarten is compulsory, meaning they are required to go. In some states, it's optional, but there is no requirement for preschool. But children who go to preschool do better in the long haul for education. They start out in a better place than children who don't. So there is no requirement. We should have a requirement. We should invest the resources to do that for all children, high quality for all children. So the other part of that you talked about is about the family. Yes, children spend most of their time with their family in general. So about educating the family. So we need to be thinking about communities and communities of learners and educating the parents. From where I am from, in Tennessee, in the United States, Dolly Parton, do you know who Dolly Parton is? A singer. She has big blonde hair. And Dolly Parton, she has an imagination library that she gives books to children every month until they go to school. So part of the problem is resources. Not all families can afford books. So children don't have all the same opportunities. So, and some of the imagination library is going international. So it's educating parents and providing resources. They want their kids to have the opportunities. They don't always have the resources to give them. But I do think that as early childhood teachers, we need to think about that as a system. So educating children within the family system and within the community system, within the village system, within the tribe system. Sama.
Okay,
Others?
thank you. Others, anyone?
If there's no,
Ibu Rita wanted to see if the male students had a question.
yes.
We
Oh,
don't want to put you on the spot. Ibu Rita asked that.
we're more interested. Oh,
Actually,
about science.
we thought that some of the research indicated that boys were more interested. Ours indicated that the girls were equally interested. So that was a big finding. Girls were not more interested than boys. They were both equally interested. There no significant difference. And then the intervention appeared to be more effective, significantly greater achievement from girls. The boys still did well. They still improved. But, yeah. Well, I'm delighted to see male students in the early childhood. That's important. It's important for children to see themselves in their teachers. So about half your students will be boys. So to have a male role model in the school is really important. I applaud you for pursuing early childhood. Okay. So
Okay.
we
There's no
I think that's
question.
it.
Yes.
You can ask me one-on-one if you like.
Okay. Give applause for Professor Katie Cape. This is a spectacular material and present. Okay, I think I want to let me to give a general conclusion. I think about early childhood education encompass not only content-based instruction but also process skill, creativity, experiments, and problem solving. By using 3H model, hands-on, hearts-on, and hands-on. Okay. And introducing science in developmentally appropriate way, we can support young children's sensory exploration of their world and provide them with foundational knowledge and skill for lifelong science learning, as well as an appreciation of nature. Okay, thank you so much for the brilliant speaker. Give applause once again for Professor Caddy Trondle. Okay, today I want to, okay, come back to host. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Windy Dwi Andika and Najlatul Patiha, MPD. All right, now I would like to ask to our speaker, please stay on the stage, yes. And I will also request to coordinator of the Stadium General, Dr. Aziza Hussein, MPD, to join here to present a certificate of appreciation to our speaker. Please, Dr. Aziza Hussein, MPD, join with us. Yeah, with Dr. Rita. Oh, with Dr. Professor Laura Wheeler, please come in, join with us. Okay, yes. Please take a picture, give smile. Okay, please stay, remain, Professor Kathy and Professor Laura. Please come in all our lecture and coordinator stadium problem. Please take photo. Yes, all of it. First the lecture, and after this with a student. Okay, please come in, join with us. Follow the lecture in here, please. Maybe sit or stand up. Oh, okay. Remain stand. Okay. Okay, please. Wait, Mr. Budi. Still there is. Okay, keep smile. Wait. Okay, freestyle maybe. Mm. Okay, thank you very much. All student, please come in, join with us. All student, maybe sit. Please, I need the lecture. Please don't stay, remain with student. Come in, come in, come in. Cukup, cukup. Maybe the student. Okay, please. Okay, all of student move in a front. Hurry up. Make a meet, make a circle. Okay. Oh, kebanyakannya nggak masuk ya? Oke, oke, divided of two. Oke, ini bagi dua ya, PGSD, PAUD ya. Oke, sorry. Oke, first PGSD yes. Oke, PAUD yes. PAUD, first PAUD maybe. Ya. Bentar. Biar rapi ya. Oke, yuk. Keep smile all of student. Once again, once more. Oke, thank you. Gantian ya, behalf us. Oke, PGSD. It's okay, sit down. Yes. Oke, sini. Oke, kami ini ke situ. Oke, sit down. Oke, good. Keep smile, please. Oke, thank you very much. Oke, please sit down. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I have to say it concludes our Stadium General today. I hope you have enjoyed and learned knowledge and information from this one. I would like to thank our speaker once again for her wonderful presentation and for sharing and advertise and insight with us. Please, once again, let's give a big round of applause for our speaker today. Okay, thank you, Professor Kathy. And on behalf of the committee, once again, I would like to thank you all for being a part of this Stadium General. We hope you had a great time and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Good morning, everybody. Have a wonderful day and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor Kathy, Professor Laura. That's why.